going to run into this problem in the future, because there are places out there with a house and a barn that are still in the city.
There are a lot of them, and it's, as I mentioned last time, Brian has been able to capitalize off of internet sales to grow the business.
Yeah.
His main concern is the amount of shipping materials and such that he has to use. He's the first of many people that is going to come to this plan commission with similar situations.
Alrighty. Any other discussion, or are we looking for a motion?
If he's denied for the putting of the building, then he's got to figure out Plan B somehow.
Right.
To make this work.
Right.
And currently, it just won't work with trying to put up another building or an addition.
Well, I wouldn't say that it wouldn't work. It can be made to work, but regardless of how he satisfies or resolves that challenge, it would still have to come back to us for a modification to the conditional use.
The conditional use is for a business, right? It's unique that he lives there too, and he has other storage needs, right, for boats and cars and things like that, but his conditional use is for his business operation.
If this were just a resident, are the rules any different? If it was just his residence?
He would most likely, tell me if I'm wrong, he'd go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, he wouldn't be able to prove a hardship,
Right.
and he'd be denied. Because what he's described, if you got to read the state statutes, what a hardship is, it's a very high bar. Very high bar.
We discussed that, I think I discussed that with Roger and Scott. And no, there's no hardship. It's just kind of common sense that you'd want to put everything under one roof. But I understand your situation with if everyone is going to want to do the same thing. I guess the only saving grace is that it's a business entity, and I'm kind of capped, and I'd love to put it on my own property.
Is there any chance you could outgrow this facility?
Well, I'm 3 years from retirement, so no. My kids would continue, and I don't know what I'd be doing, probably have a hand in it, but it's just, we'll have enough to grow into when I can clear out some of the things that we've got. And just the streamlining the operation of the shipping in general would give us a lot more space. I just filled my area that is designated for all of my lawn equipment. You can't move in there because we just got a shipment of boxes, huge boxes that we then ship out. But that's, I just have to work with it.
Alrighty, looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay, is there a second?
And recommend to council.
and recommend the council.
Is there
I'll
a
second.
Okay, discussion on the motion?
I'd like to see it as an addition.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'd like to see it as an addition rather than a separate building.
That becomes a really large building.
Yeah.
The only,
Well, it could just be an extended barn,
It's a large building.
and then he gets then you get 2 floors out of it. You could store on the first floor and store on the second.
Well, that's what this has. It's a loft area, 2 stories.
the addition.
Okay, so got the same situation we had with the last gal. We're in a motion now, so
Sorry,
Ken.
it's just us talking. We kind of threw the switch.
That's all I got.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands, please. Opposed? Motion passes. So we will,
Brian, you'll be hearing from the city attorney. We'll prepare the conditional use amendment.
Okay.
Send it to you for approval. You can have your attorney review it. and then plan on being at the council meeting on the 17th of June.
It's the biggest lot around.
And
Just
then-
like the last situation, the council can reaffirm what the planning commission did, or it can vote
And you have an
the opposite way, but
industrial
the
park across the
council
street.
has the final say.
Okay, and that would be for a building separate?
Correct.
It's for what your application is requesting.
Yes, all right.
Okay, great, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Okay. 6C, DELC 0825.987, 601 Maple Avenue, Delafield, owner Ben and Amy Askren, applicant Cameron Bentz. Applicant seeks approval of certified survey map to divide one 10-acre parcel into two 5-acre parcels and recommend to the common council of the same. The floor is yours, gentlemen.
We were here, I think, last October with a different design. It came back that bringing the water and the sewer down from the next lot over was going to be over $250,000, which was cost prohibitive. So we are now going septic and well. We laid the lots out like this so they meet standards of Delafield, and we're hoping to move forward. I think Roger gave us a thumbs up. And any questions you guys want?
I have one.
Go
Can you
for it.
please give me your address for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry. I am Ben Askren at 601 Maple Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
And if you're going to speak, we need your name and address too.
If you're ready, Cameron Benz, 1301 West Canal Street.
Hold on, Cameron, I'm sorry, my fingers are not working just as fast as I'd like them to be.
No worries.
I missed your address.
1301 West Canal Street, and that's Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Yep.
The Planning Commission may remember that Mr. Askren and Mr. Benz were here November
Yeah, I think so.
with the site plan and the CSM that we had given them the nod on. The surveyor had already reviewed it, they had modified it, and what's different here is just two interior lines that split the property into two compliant lots. They both conform to the bulk regulations. They are both greater than 5 acres, and therefore they're able to function with a private septic rather than hook up to sanitary sewer. I would recommend for your consideration approval and recommend to the city common council contingent upon the final survey and review, which is just going to be measuring those two lines accordingly.
Does the county get involved in
No.
the septic?
Only in the sanitary permit.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
So, you know, the applicant may be taking a risk if they've got bad soils, but that's kind of their own due diligence.
We already did that.
Good deal.
Good to go.
Question I have.
Yes.
The design of that lot, does that not show flag lot?
You know, that is a very good observation. It is a flag lot because it's got the bulk of the property in the back, but it satisfies the requirements because this width on the street front satisfies the minimum lot width for the zoning district.
That is an excellent transfer of one topic, one situation to another. Nicely done.
They don't want Nagawicca Road all. I couldn't bear.
Yeah, we were here for that.
You were?
That was the point that I couldn't believe that guy wasn't making was he was.
Okay, let's keep to your
Well,
topic.
I'll give you-
No, it's dead.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah, but
so
we're giving you good
Couple other
advice.
things. So for design of the lot, it's not conforming to a new plot. From the standpoint of width and depth, it's more than 2.5 times depth than it is width, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I'm just pointing out that just say blanket statement that it's conforming is not accurate. I'm just stating it for the record. And it's unfortunate that the cost came back
Yeah.
so prohibitively because this isn't really the vision that the city had when we annexed this property. This was really to leverage the geography and, we're maintaining a buffer between the industrial and then the town, which I think is good. That's kind of what we had intended. But it was more to blend this in with the other industrial park that's there, either SEH property or that cul-de-sac at the bottom of the hill. So it's a different end result. But I think how wide is this lot? Lot 2, it becomes how wide? It's like 200 feet or it was 120 feet? 120.
It's 120 plus 58, so you've got 180.
And I guess, just give us an idea what kind of buildings are going on here?
So the building is gonna be in the exact same spot it was previously. It's a 9,600-foot wrestling facility. It's gonna be literally in the exact same spot. We're not changing anything about the site plan. It's just like I said, the sewer and the water. I mean, if you guys wanna help us pay for the sewer and the water, we would love to do that. I don't know if that's
We're doing it right now, by
What do you
being
mean?
here. No, by being here.
Oh,
We're doing it right now.
Deal. So, yeah, I mean, the building is gonna go towards the road. We're gonna get an easement from SEH, which is our neighbor, to use their driveway. And the parking lot will be kind of on the north side of that. I'm sorry, that would be the east side of that property.
So you are still pursuing the easement for access, but not
Yes.
sanitary and
Not
water? Okay. Correct. And just for the planning commission's information, they will be returning with actual site plans before construction.
So Tim, do you see a solution to your concern?
You know, we're not.
If they were to split it more evenly, is that, am I
I don't think you can.
understanding?
You can't get 5 acres so the question I don't think you can get 5 acres out of this by cutting it down the middle. You're gonna be cutting
I
off the
mean,
corner of the house.
does anybody know that?
Yeah, we've.
You've tried?
Yeah, Chapel Land Surveys, myself and R.A. Smith, the civil engineer. This is the only way to get exactly over 5 acres or equal to 5 acres on both.
Is there a way to accommodate septic on 2 lots? I mean, does that 5 acres per lot have to run with each property, or is it, I mean,
think
you
that's
get
a
what I'm saying?
County rule or something.
No, that's the
it's
5
our
acres
city
is a
rule.
city rule.
But I mean, because the goal was not to put another septic tank in the ground when we annex this property, you know. But I get the conundrum with the cost. But anyways, I'm just stating it's less than ideal. I know it was the end game was the Grunkies or whoever owned the
Yes.
property beforehand. It was kind of their end game to get out of Dodge, I think. They were retiring, or maybe I'm just speculating.
They wanted to sell it for significantly more. They
Yeah.
thought they could tie the gun club it somehow, and then I don't think that came through for them.
Yeah, and you've got that issue as well, but it looked like it might blend in better with the industrial park as an ultimate use, but I think from a planning perspective and what I think is in everyone's best interest, this does seem to work. It creates a really oddball lot, which jumps out at you when you look at our plats, but it does maintain the dwelling there. Is there any way to?
And we don't really mind that gigantic building you put in our backyard too much. The trees covered up.
And so is this still maintain B6 zoning for the home, the residence
Yes,
that's there?
and a single-family home is an allowable use in B6.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other way to develop this particular property without getting neighbors involved, and maybe that was investigated by somebody at some point, but anyways, my question's answered.
Okay, if we don't have other discussions or questions, does somebody have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve, move forward to.
I'm sorry, Laura, I can't quite hear you.
I'll make the motion to approve.
And are we recommending this one to council?
Yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it contingent upon anything, or just move to approve as presented?
Contingent on engineer's final review.
Okay, engineer's final review.
Okay.
Okay,
Who
any
was the
further?
second? Dave?
Dave. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can you raise your hands, the ayes, please, just so we know? Okay, all not in favor?
Nay, I'm on a roll.
June 17th.
Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. We will see you on June 17th at the city council meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Now remember, they have the final say, right? Okie dokie. We are now on to 6D, DLC 0734.989, 4024 Negwick Road, Heartland. Owner, University Lake School. Applicant, Sunvest Solar Incorporated. Applicant seeks preliminary feedback regarding a solar collection system to service the school's utility demands. And if you could state your name and address, we can get going.
You bet. Kirk Kindred, Sunvest Solar, N24W24075, Paul Court, Pewaukee, Wisconsin.
Kurt, what was your last name?
Kindred, Kindred.
Why don't you start so we get a kind of overview of what you're trying to do here?
Yeah, so there's a little sliver of land that the school owns on the north side of Edison Road that we would like to put a solar array on, a small little like 400 kW ground array. If you're familiar with that little
Do you have a map?
slice between the railroad track and Vedelson Road, there's a utility pole sort of in the middle, and we're trying to use the site as far to the east as possible to put the solar array on. There's a sort of a view of what it would look like in that little section right there.
Okay, so I see, I see. So the Vedelson Road goes like in a half circle.
Kurt, see the railroad tracks, they have to straighten out the road to go to the railroad tracks.
That's where you prairie burn that all the time.
Yeah, that prairie restoration area. That's
Okay, so this is out in the wide open.
It is in the wide open,
Okay.
that's correct.
Where the sun can hit it.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
get that.
We're not gonna screen it with tall trees, right?
Kind of want access to the
We can recommend that.
Are there any
We're gonna face
trees
it north.
that need to
None.
be removed?
They've all been burned.
There's a couple small little scrubby ones on the very, very far east that we'll probably take down when we scrub the site, just kind of mow it, really.
There's nothing there.
They burn it almost every year
They
for
do.
at least
We'll have
a
to take that
decade.
sign down and stuff.
Yeah.
How does this, is there gonna be a fence around the whole thing?
There will be a fence.
How tall?
6
tall?
foot.
Okay. Is that just to prevent mischief, make it just difficult
Yep,
as opposed to impossible?
What type
Chain
of, what
link?
type of fence?
chain link.
Boy,
So the facility is actually technically going to be owned by We Energies. It's their Solar Now program. So they're leasing the space from the university, and it's technically owned by We Energies, and will be tied into that little box on the bottom as a transformer that comes off of their distribution line, which is actually just on the other side of Vedelson Road.
well, coincidentally, the city is working with We Energies for a similar setup.
That's true.
Same organization.
And how tall are these again? They're 7 feet, I think I read.
Probably.
The back of the array will be about 8 feet tall, and then it slopes off like 25 degrees, so it's like 3 feet off the front lip for snow collecting and drifting. And
Will there be reflection off of that from Vedelson if you're driving by, get blinded?
so the interesting thing about a solar panel is it's designed to collect the energy from the sun and actually use it, so they really don't reflect much. And there's actually two design elements of the solar panels themselves. One is a film that goes over the top of the solar cells that redirects any light actually into the solar cell to try to increase the efficiency to absorb even more of the light. And then the other factor is it's a non-reflective glass that they put over the top. So there's two actual anti-reflective technology pieces in the solar panel itself. There has been studies on that exact same thing. We put a system in at MATC over by Dane County Airport, and we had to do a glare study for the FAA because it was technically right next to Dane County Airport, and obviously it passed. So they really do not reflect. They reflect about the same as agricultural foliage. So about as much
I'm sorry, the same as what?
about as much as like a corn stalk. You know,
Oh,
like,
okay.
You know, they don't really they absorb a lot of light. You know, obviously it's hitting, and it is at an angle. We always have these nice, beautiful pictures of it shining, though.
I mean, my feedback would be, I think it'd be a conversation piece, and people would love to see the fact that we're exploiting the land there next to railroad tracks on the inside curve of
It's a
some land that
perfect
we've never
place.
seen. I mean, I can't think of a better place to
Yeah,
put
it
it.
really is.
I would like to see something with we are giving up that little prairie grass when you're cutting around that turn. It's really kind of neat. I would love to see on that inside, maybe the fence that's bordering Vedelson Road have something nicer than just the
Fence.
the cyclone fence.
Yeah, could there be a
We could do-
vine that grows up on it?
Seriously.
Well,
No, it's only gonna be 6 feet.
it's
These are gonna be
only-
taller than
It's
that.
only 6
I mean,
feet.
we don't want-
The sun's up there.
Yeah, I
That'd
think we'd
be
like
a
to
hell
try
of
to
an
make it
angle.
look less industrial just because of,
Yeah.
Only in the winter.
What about grasses?
You know,
In the summer, it's down there.
usually what we're seeing incorporated into
The
any
sun's
sort
not up in
type
the
of
sky.
soil restoration is low growth, sort of plant mix.
That's what I'm getting
You want really low maintenance.
Low
Right.
growth.
You really don't want to have to go in there and mow it all the time because it's kind of tight to get a mower in between them, even though there's like 18 feet between those rows. So you really don't want to have to maintain it. The idea is to have it there for 30 years. The life expectancy of the modules are that long. So you really don't want to have to go back and babysit it or do any kind of maintenance on it. As far as any sort of, slats in the fence, I think those end up looking worse
Yeah,
than the
that's-
fence.
I agree.
You know?
like
they
the
look-
green things?
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
they look great day one, but year 10, they don't look that great.
No, you're talking a piece of wood or you're talking a piece of
No, the
fabric?
aluminum slats. that
Oh,
we've-
the metal
like
ones?
we-
Yeah.
Like behind McDonald's, that fence has them.
Yeah, they end
They
up
look
not
cheap.
looking that good after a
What
while.
about plantings on the roadside between the road and the fence?
Like a lower,
You know, maybe
lower
like
shrubs.
a hedge, but the road there is kind of elevated, so anything you
look
plant,
over
you're
it.
gonna really
Oh,
be able to
it's
see
true.
over it.
I look right over it.
It's just
You
gonna
look
be
right-
very shocking to anybody that drives by there and, while it's a great purpose and all that kind of stuff, it's extremely visible, right? Just trying to come
Some
up,
people would
we're
say
trying to
it's
think aloud of helping you come up with ways to soften the surroundings, right?
Right, right.
And not be expensive.
Yeah.
Because what kind of fence are you proposing?
Like a 6-foot chain link fence.
They've got these other places, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, we're putting
So-
them in other places.
So,
A lot of them.
have there been, so if you give us maybe a picture of some of those to help us just see how that's going to change from what it is now. I mean, I get what it is now. I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yep, yep.
But if there's anything that's been done creatively to soften just the edge, I'm just,
Yep.
like that border as you're driving straight.
You know, I mean, we could contemplate sliding it over a little bit to the west or, squishing it back a little bit. We just have kind of a limited space to work with. There's that overhead line for the street light at the intersection on their north entrance coming off of Edelson Road. That's fed with with the service that's over by it's owned by We Energies as well. We tried talking them into just taking that stuff down and feeding it from the transformer and make the light fed from the box rather than with the overhead. But it's a different department, different set of
Yeah.
money.
I mean, it'd be nice if there was no fence. I mean, but, I don't know
Yeah,
if that's ever an
so-
option. I think mischief would be a problem. And
Yes.
It's because it's owned by We Energies. They're the ones that are very adamant about a fence. We have arrays like this in other areas that are not fenced, that are publicly owned. Maybe they're owned by, not a utility. So then it's their choice whether they have a fence, and there is some other way to incorporate. I mean, they're safe. The solar. I mean, you could touch them. They're not going to shock anybody. They are running direct current into an inverter that's hanging on the back of the array. Could have someone monkeying around with the stuff back there, but for all intents and purposes, you just don't want to. You want to limit access to it if anyone is.
Is this solely for the use of University Lake School, or do you anticipate it rolling back the meter and?
So it's not actually going to feed the meter of the utility. It's going to go directly into We Energies grid.
Oh, okay.
The University Lake School is going to receive a rent.
Sure,
Police.
like a credit.
does it go up with energy costs? I mean, I don't know what they're kind of. I don't
There
know
is
if you have
no
to-
escalator on it. It's a flat
no?
rent payment. Mhm. It's just a different way that the utility is looking at sort of deploying renewable energies in a distributed fashion around the community. Some nonprofits, some for-profits. City of Delafield has a couple sites that we're going to be here talking about shortly, but they're trying to figure out a way they can use renewables and more of a dispersed. They have their other large
Yeah.
renewable project that they're doing down in like south of Dodgeville, and that's like 2,000 acres of this.
Yep.
And it's, you know, that's a utility size kind of project. But this is more of a distributed, community involved kind of project, higher profile. They kind of want people to know that this is out there and being used.
Is there something, Roger, we have to do with the uses of this property to allow?
No, this is an essential service.
Okay.
Which, you know, could be, it's applicable to any zoning district as a permitted use. My only concern about any of this is perhaps the setback from Vettleson Road. In the district, it's 30 feet. They don't illustrate that here. I think it may be wiser to respect the 30 feet and actually crowd the railroad as much as possible. If we're gonna give a special consideration to a setback.
What's the 30-foot setback for? Because the people are building houses, it's like 8 feet.
Well, that's down
In
that
their
way.
zoning district it is, but here it's 30 feet.
Okay.
So we'd like to, I think the city should,
So would that be
respect that as-
30 feet, do you think, to the, sorry for interrupting.
from
Do
the
you think
right of way,
From the right of way to the fence or to the array, do you think?
to the structure, to the array.
To the array, okay,
Yeah.
so the fence could encroach inside that 30 feet?
Fence can encroach inside that 30 feet. I think, as we go forward in preparation for Plan Commission, hearing the public hearing and actually taking action on the conditional use modification, we will list the items that they're asking for essentially variances on. One of which is the fence. You know, you're not supposed to have a fence in the front yard. This is, but again, it's not, it's an essential service. You know, if they're asking for a modification on the setbacks, I think that's something that we'll want to identify in the conditional use amendment and anything else that Plan Commission might recommend.
This is a perfect spot for it.
Yeah,
You
really
know,
is.
You've got the best neighbors to deal with it. It's
Yeah.
University Lake School and then the public school, right? I mean,
And the railroad.
railroad. I mean,
Railroad and
I don't know who's to
road,
the
it's,
west. Who's to the west?
I don't know what else to put in.
Just out of curiosity, did the University Lake School, I mean, like we do with the city, we looked at a number of different options. Did they have other things they consider? I mean, they do have other open space.
They do.
Certainly over by the
Neguic Road.
by Nickel Road, right?
Yeah, so.
I mean, a lot.
Inch the road.
I mean, not just a little, a lot.
They do. So that is, that was a spot we looked at over there, sort of where they have some auxiliary practice fields by the
Yeah.
barn, where they have the barn sale all the
Yeah.
time.
No, not anymore. That's done.
That's done, right, where they had it. So they have some open space there. We looked at it, but there's some trees that line Neguic Road. And the utility infrastructure that goes down Vettleson Road is a 24, it's a bigger 24 kV line. The line that goes down Neguic Road to feed the residents is an 8 kV, so it's smaller. A little bit more complicated to have backfed generation into the utility infrastructure. So the utility infrastructure along Vettleson Road is a little bit more robust. And then there is a spot just south of the Vettleson Road, kind of right behind their sign, the sign that's on the corner of Vettleson and Neguica, right in that corner. They've already done some clearing to make some walking paths and stuff in there. So we'd have to grub a lot of trees, and then you would see the back of the array as you're driving down Vettleson versus the front of the array. And I think that this is probably a better look
Agree.
than the back.
I think that if you could rearrange those rows and get more, the 30-foot setback with a 6-foot fence, and if there was any plantings, low plantings, although, yeah, I'm not thinking about the vertical.
Yeah, the
difference
road's
in it.
fairly
Have to
elevated
drive
there,
it.
yeah.
I'll have to-
The fence, it won't even look like a fence, really, right?
A chain link fence?
I mean, it's gonna look like a fence. I'm just saying, it is down low.
It is.
Yeah, you'll have to look at,
Yeah, I'll have
I
to
don't know.
drive it.
it's not a pretty piece of land the way it is.
No, I think this is a
I
great
think this
place
is-
for
I
Well,
think
it's
it's gonna
a
be cool.
prairie, Tim.
replace the prairie with a solar array. No, I think this is a good place for it.
Can you figure out a way to use it to kill deer?
Oh,
We
I
can
just
feed
did
some,
last Monday with my
Okay,
truck.
oh, that's unfortunate.
feed some electricity into that.
No,
Okay, so no motion is here. This is just,
you could-
The apple.
But yeah, if you could maybe bring what a completed project looks like with the fences proposed, so we can just get the visual when we're approving it. You know, I think that would help us understand and maybe.
Would you want it like a section, so you can see the sight lines from the road height? A section.
Cross.
Yeah, if you can give us a visual, what,
Road.
like a
An elevation.
depiction, an elevation,
Yeah.
an elevation from the road.
As a section, so you can see the road.
There
The array.
might have been something on one of these plans, but we can do that.
It'll just eliminate the possibility that we're shocked and our mind's not wrapping around what it's ultimately gonna be. I think we got it, but that'll help.
Yep. Visual aids.
Okay, and then we'll schedule you for the public hearing.
And that'll be the 24th then,
I think it's 26th,
26th?
26th.
Okay.
Alrighty, we'll see you
And
back
then it'll go to
then.
city council for approval after that?
Yes.
So maybe July approval for a permit? Kind
Yeah,
of
you
if
got-
things
you
go well.
You gotta deal with the building inspector for that.
He's very quiet, but he carries a big stick.
They're not gonna blow over.
All right, well, great. Thank you again for coming.
You bet, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to 6E, DLC 0798.098.001-004, 319-337, Division Street, Delafield, owner, Barron Properties LLC, applicant Condo Development Incorporated. Applicant seeks preliminary feedback on a development concept that would require revised comprehensive plan text, rezoning, and site plan approval for a 10-unit attached age-restricted housing development.
Greg James, 318 North Lake Road, Oconomowoc, 53066. Good evening. Are you wanting to start, or should I just go
Well,
right?
apparently you already have, go
I'm
ahead.
ready. Anybody else?
You sat around.
I'm very ready.
What Mr. James has prepared for your consideration this evening is a preliminary presentation with the expectation that this will move forward to a public hearing. That is a multifaceted approval process. He's looking at the property, as you can see up here at the northwest corner of Lake Street in Division. This is Lake Street, which has never been improved with actual vehicle traffic. We have the bike path in there, and there are some utilities running through there. As part of the development here, Mr. James is requesting our consideration to vacate the western half of Lake Street, as well as the alleyway that runs east-west, just immediately north of the properties. As I said, it's multifaceted. In order to get there, what he's proposing is a 10-unit attached single-family development, something that's age-restricted, something that responds to a housing demand for a very specific demographic that's growing in the city, and I think is very responsive to our community needs. In order to realize this, we'll have to start with a modification to the 2030 Comprehensive Plan Central Business District land use description. In that description, it identifies the types of zoning districts that are appropriate in the CBD, in the Central Business District. Currently, for residential, by zoning right, it includes multifamily by conditional use for any of the commercial properties. But for residential properties, it allows for R7, which is, R4, which is the smallest lot size we have in the downtown area. What it does not anticipate, and it was like this in 2008, we did not anticipate the need for elderly housing in the downtown area, which I think is very appropriate since the intent of the development of elderly housing, you want them to be within a reasonable walking distance of your commercial entities. This site would satisfy that, and by modifying the land use description to allow for R7 would also allow for other types of elderly facilities to be constructed in the downtown if other properties are so deemed appropriate for that type of use. As I mentioned, this is also requires vacation of Lake Street, portion of Lake Street and the alleyway. And if the determination is made to change the text of the comprehensive plan, it would require then rezoning of the property, which is currently CBD2, to an R7 zoning district. Once we get through all of that, then we get into the real site plan analysis, which would require consolidation of all these lots via CSM into one district that's compliant with the R7 standards. We would have to obtain, or the petitioner would have to obtain site plan and architectural approval from the Plan Commission, and then, of course, go through Public Works for their engineering concerns. As I said, it's a multi-step process, but it's something that Plan Commission may want to consider sharing your opinions about that with Mr. James this evening. If you think it's not worth pursuing, by all means, let us know before we take the next step. If it's something that you are willing to consider, the appropriate thing to do would be to conduct a public hearing, to change the comprehensive plan text to allow for that R7 zoning. At the same time, we could simultaneously do a rezoning petition. Once that's all approved and recommended by the Plan Commission to council, the vacation can take place, and then the petitioner would come back and we get into the actual site plan approval process.
So I just want to add two things. One is, we took this to the city council already we wanted to find out, would they even be interested in vacating Lake Street and the alley, and they didn't have any objections to it. Nobody on a head nod didn't see a need for keeping it, right? So at least on the council level, that seems to be a viable
What about
option.
the bike trail? Does it preserve that?
It does preserve that.
I use it frequently.
Right,
Okay.
right. So half of that width there is a bike trail, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, the eastern
Which
half.
is on the half he doesn't,
Okay.
need, right? So that would
Okay.
maintain the same way. And then the second thing I just wanted to mention is right across the street is R7 zoning currently.
That's going to be my question.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I was gonna
Right
ask
across the
that.
street. So it's an appropriate location for that type of use. It's just that we don't have the proper mechanisms in place to allow this to happen on the north side of the street.
When you say across the street, is it the federal housing or the McCormick apartments?
No,
Across the street.
it's not McCormick, it's the existing
Isn't it
housing.
The federal housing or whatever,
Yeah,
assisted,
Oak Crest, is that the name of it?
something like that. That's R7.
That's R7.
McCormick's not.
No,
Okay.
McCormick's is not.
By proposing changing the zoning, how far out from this location does that affect?
That would only be for this site.
Just that site?
But by changing the comprehensive plan and so forth, it would be available to applicants anywhere in the central business district in the future, right?
But the,
Good point to make.
but the Plan Commission could take it upon yourselves, and the comprehensive plan is your baby. If you see that this is an appropriate use, I would suggest that you could even consider expanding the R7 zoning to include Al Johnston's property and Pavlik, I think is the other.
There's two residents
There's two
In
residents.
the south side of this division,
to the
Yeah.
west.
the north side of
Yeah.
Division Street.
You know, that would allow them to maintain their existing home, but for future development of the property, having more R7 right there in the back door of City Hall would be an appropriate location, of course.
I actually went out and viewed this. I was looking for the alley, never found it.
It's just grass,
Okay.
grass and
Lake
buckthorn probably.
Lake Street, I was going to turn on, oh, wait a minute. In looking at this, each one of these row houses is 19 feet wide. Is that all they are?
That's correct, yes.
I have a real problem with this because I have experienced my family with a side-by-side condo, bi-level. When it came time to selling it, many elderly came through it, people over 50 came through it, and they turned it down simply because, and it was just a few steps down to the basement, a few steps up to the living quarters, and it was because of the stairs. A lot of seniors don't care for that many stairs. And I see a lot of stairs to this because it looks like it's multiple levels.
Yes. If they were driving into the two-car garage from the lower level, from the back, from the north, they then would have to climb one flight of stairs to get up to the first level. The first level is street level from the front of the building. So if, let's say it's a couple and the wife or the husband can't make the stairs, that person would probably get dropped off at the front of the building, be able to enter the first floor without any stairs. And on the first floor, they'd have the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the utility room, the master bedroom, its own bath, its own walk-in closet, so that everything they need for everyday living is all on the first floor. And then the other member would drive and park the car underneath. The other two bedrooms are on the upper level, and those would probably be for the grandchildren and the children when they come to visit these seniors. And by seniors, by federal and state law, the 55 and over, 80% of the units have to have at least one person who's 55 or over.
Right.
The other 20% of the units, they can all be under 55. 100% of the units, no children under the age of 15. And that's the way the federal and state law is written. So we built almost everything. The 700 condos we've built, almost all of them have been for seniors. We accommodate them with extra wide doorways, no step at the front door, no step at the back door. In this case, they have to climb from the garage up, but the person who can't make stairs would be able to enter from the grade level, from the street level. Also, the stairways are straight. There's no bends. So if they wanted to get one of these chair lifts, it would work real easily on a straight stairway with no bends at the front, at the top or the bottom.
Sure, my comment is that this looks like there's one or two too many units in here. I think a break in the building at some point would do wonders for its aesthetics. I understand what that does to the bottom line, but this looks like, it looks,
The bulk.
it just looks like a big
One big
slab.
mass.
Yeah, like a,
Kind of like an apartment building.
looks exactly like a big apartment building that there's plenty of downtown. But I'm just suggesting that a break between someplace in here, one or two breaks would do wonders for the aesthetic appeal of the building. And I know you're not going to be seeing the garage doors from anywhere but that alley, right? I mean,
That's correct.
but,
It'd only be,
so that's going to be hidden. But if there's a,
Their own blacktop drive.
yeah. So
Tim, when you say a break in the building, are you suggesting perhaps relocating the drive so as to break, go through in between two
I
buildings?
wasn't suggesting, I wasn't thinking about the drive. Yeah, but if this was two structures, I think that would help a ton. And if there was a, I don't know what it does to the street. I'm not looking at the whole thing at once, but
the alternative, of course, would have been a multi-story senior building with common hallways and underground parking, in which case you would have had just one multifamily building. You know, this at least is individual entrances, their own front porch. On the second floor, they have a large deck, part of which is covered.
Yeah, I would agree, looking at it, it's huge. It's a large monolith of a building there that if you could break those into two separate
That's
buildings,
institutional.
it would ease the visual of what you're seeing. Also with 19 feet wide, are you looking at a single car garage for each unit?
No, actually, there's two cars parked next to each other in the garage.
'Cause that's
And there's
tight.
there's room up in front of those two cars for a third car, or a boat, or whatever they wanted to
I'm
park.
just saying 19 feet wide for a garage is like.
Yes, you have to understand, in a condominium, the people don't have to store a lawnmower, they don't have to store a...
No, I understand, I'm just pointing out.
Yeah, I understand.
What I'm giving you input.
I understand.
I think 19 feet is too tight for a two-car garage. If you pulled out a center section, I know it's probably not what you want. You're going from 10 units down to 8, maybe. You're putting a break down the middle. You're giving people wider space, a wider berth in their living area more than 19 feet. 19 feet is less than a two-car garage.
Well-
It just appears to me as, that's very tight.
Yeah, I've built a lot of two-family side-by-side condos, and we have a lot of them with 18-foot interior garages.
I don't doubt
And
it.
and the people find it acceptable,
I'm
not a
just giving you
problem.
my input, I just felt,
Okay.
I felt that it's too large of a building looking at the structure for that area. And I feel that the 19 feet is, I'll even say the word inadequate for each unit, so that would be my input.
The upper levels, 19 feet is actually excessive. It's more width than I need for the rooms that are up there. We end up with a 18-foot master bedroom. I mean, that's excessive. We end up with the upstairs bedrooms 18 feet because there isn't enough room to run them next to each other. So there's one in the front, one in the back. So in the living space, I've got too much width. Okay, so I'm not going to go wider.
How many square feet is the first floor?
The living space is 1,900 square feet. There's about 1,200 square feet on the first floor. No, I'm sorry. There's an equal amount on both floors.
Right.
There's 1,900, there's about 700 feet upstairs because there's just two bedrooms, and then a large deck, part of which is covered, part of which is open, and that's facing south to the street.
19 by 50.
And so on the first floor, you have more living space with that extra bedroom. So you've probably got 9 or 1,000 square feet on the first floor.
So 17.
And again, everything that the senior needs is on the first floor.
Well, I can honestly say I don't like it. I have been to a senior village a newer one, over in Sussex, where they have one right after the other in kind of like a street layout.
Oh.
And they have the door and the garage right there, the front door and the garage. And this would be a perfect spot for that because you could face the living room and then towards that wooded
Is it the
and
one
the
with-
area in the back.
Is it the one with single-family homes?
No, it's
Okay.
only condos.
Dave, can you
Side by
speak
side.
up so we can hear you over here?
Oh, I asked if it was
You got to get your mic closer because we can't hear you over the speakers.
Oh. I just asked if it was a single-family home in Sussex. There's one in Sussex that's single-family homes, but they're small homes.
No, this is one right after the
Okay.
other, they're all connected. And there's multiple streets. And what they have is a front door and with a porch and then the garage, all on one level. So there's no stairs.
Yes.
And when I was over there, they had probably over 100 of them and they were building more.
Yes. Yes. The seniors are the biggest marketplace for condominiums, there's no
Yep.
question. And that's why most of the condos we've built have been for seniors.
Greg, is this
Yeah.
a new product for you, or do you have something that the planning commissioners can go see?
No, we haven't done the townhouse before. No. No. But I feel I've compensated by having all the living space they need on the first floor and access to the first floor from the front yard without having to come up any stairs. So if they become disabled, they'd still be able to access the unit without having to climb stairs. And again, when you're getting into the downtown, you are talking about density in order that people are close and can walk to all the downtown conveniences.
And what is it zoned at right now? I know it's.
Right now, it's CBD 2.
Well, I'm not there. I can tell you right now that it's something that's in my mind because my husband is getting to the point where he's not going to be able to go up and downstairs. And I would not buy something like this.
No. Well, all the people buying in here are not going to be 80 years old like I'm about to be.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of just the 55 to 60 who will be able to live there a long time, climbing one flight of stairs.
What would be two?
I get all that, but again, it needs to be broken up or something. This is just one massive building
Yeah.
on that lot, so I'm not there either.
No, yeah.
If there's
I'm
a
not
way
fan
of-
what I'm seeing there.
And the only way to do that, I think, is you're gonna have to lessen the amount of units.
Yep.
I think that's just too dense for that size of lot.
Yeah. I'm with you.
That's
Okay.
my feedback.
Any other feedback for the applicant? Alrighty, you heard their advice.
Yeah,
Back to the drawing board.
maybe.
Thank you. Okay. 6F, 100 block Main Street, 2500 block Genesee Street, Delafield, owner, City of Delafield, applicant, City of Delafield. Applicant seeks approval to remove civic signage attached to the welcome signs on those streets.
Is the applicant here tonight?
The applicant's here.
Otherwise, no action.
The mayor is going to speak to this one.
Yeah, please do.
So it's basically a two-part process. Started at the Promotion and Tourism Committee, and they kind of own the perception of the city, and they're asking, they voted and are asking that the Planning Commission, item number 1, follow their recommendation and ask to have these signs that have been arbitrarily attached at the whim of some individual or council person or whatever to just stick these signs up on these welcome signs. And so they're asking you to consider in this first item to follow the recommendation and request that the Public Works Committee remove them. Or the Public Works Department.
The committee, I'm not
remove
going
them.
up there.
Now, the second phase of it, which is the next item, which is G, is, okay, it's a simple question that needs to be answered. Do we see value in these signs in the city of Delafield in general? Whether it's the Lions, or whether it's the Ice Age Trail, or whether it's the Kiwanis, do we see value in displaying those somewhere in the city? If the answer is no, it's pretty simple. We just don't allow these signs, right? If the answer is yes, then we need to consider where would we want to display them, right? And so on the next item, there's maps that talk about some possibilities where we would could possibly display them, you know, the method, the size, who could be on it. These are all things that would have to be discussed. But the first order of business, which is F, is to either make a recommendation to follow Promotion and Tourism's recommendation to remove these, or to make a motion that they stay.
All right, I'll make a motion to get rid of the signs contingent upon requests for signage be included, or at least notice of these types of signs be included on the visitdelafield.org website. That's the sign, that's the name that's right on the sign there.
Okay?
So that someone's got one of these that with minimal effort, they can petition to get their little placard on that website for reference.
Okay.
Have a spot there for that, for people to use.
That's a good idea.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Can all these signs be put 5 feet in front of the big city sign?
Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, so now we're on to G. So fundamentally, we have to ask ourselves, do we see value in finding a place for these signs, or do we not?
I just suggested one.
Yeah, I like that suggestion.
I'm saying physically.
Visitdelafield.org.
Physically, because if
You
we
got a
have a
smart-
bunch of head nods that say, we
Yes.
don't really see a lot of value in finding a place, I think we're done.
My take is, I think there is value. It shows involvement in other entities throughout the city. It shows the city supports those various entities or whatever they may be, you know, within reason. I would even so much as to say that instead of having people or activities put those up there randomly, that they put them up for a time span of, say, 6 months or a year, at which time they have to reapply every calendar cycle of it, and this way it can either be taken down at that point or left back up. You know, as opposed to, I put it up there 15 years ago. I'm not sure where I left it, but I think it's there. So it gives them some, you know, meat in the game to make sure that it's not just abandoned up there.
Okay.
I actually thought that Mr. Ryers had a good plan last time we discussed this, to put like the trail one at points of entry to the trail.
Okay. Well, there are, I can just tell you from my personal observations, the trail ones are all over the place. They've been stuck on street signs. They've
Yeah,
been
I've
stuck
noticed
on
that.
next to the elevator in City Hall. There are stickers on every glass door, and the Public Works building, the City
ACH
Hall
trail?
is just gone hog wild with the putting up of these
problem with that is
signs.
that people after a while stop noticing them.
Yeah.
You put too many of them. I'll comment too, and, you know, from a public works standpoint, the right-of-way is generally reserved for regulatory signs for motorists. That if we pick a spot, that it's not in the traveled right-of-way, if we pick our spots.
Okay. So the fundamental question is, do we see value in finding a place for these signs, or do we not? I hear one saying yes, I see value in that. Who else thinks there's value in finding a spot? Two?
I'm not so
Probably need
sure.
4, right?
I'm
We
not
kind of
so
need 4 to say we can continue the conversation, right? But if we can't find the 4, then
I just seen, I think Roger might have mentioned it, when you used to go into Waukesha and how it grows, and you end up with 20 of these signs
Yeah.
plastered there on your entrances in your city, and I think it looks a little tacky.
I just wondered, with everybody using their phones to find things in it, if it's even viable anymore.
It's a
Yeah,
tough one, because once you let one in, you're gonna
yeah,
have
right, because if you
to-
decide there is a place for them, then all these other rules have to come into play, right?
You could end
Who
up
can
with-
put them up?
and
What
where.
size can they be? How many are we gonna be allowed, right? Are we gonna
Well, I
allow
don't- yeah.
10 or 20 or 40?
I hate a post for every sign.
That's
Well,
an
I know.
issue,
I'd
too.
rather have
Yeah.
a placard, and
But if
that's
we-
all the signs
All
that
I'm
can
saying
fit,
is
they
if we
can
do
change.
decide that we want to find a place, then all the rules are going to have to be laid out on
Right.
how that's managed.
Then you go to some towns where they have these huge signs with all of them with their
Yeah. it's-
individual signs on
And
them.
nobody really
And-
stops and reads
No,
every
no,
one of them.
get-
You just drive
it's too
past them,
overwhelming
and
and
it's
you
like,
We
oh.
should just have on the city signs, right below it, something that looks like an iPhone and says visit Delafield.org.
There you go.
Have them all in there.
Which is
Then-
kind of
then
But
what
you
people
shouldn't be
were
doing that
saying,
in your
right?
Place to
car.
go
Yep,
there.
I think that's what
Don't do it while you're driving.
because most people use their phones if they're trying to find something.
So I'm still only seeing 2 really pushing for finding a spot, so unless we got 2 other ones,
No.
okay, we're going to let her go.
Yeah.
So that ends 6G.
No.
So now we're on to number 7, zoning and ordinance revisions.
Quick note, they have to straighten out the ball on the east side of that welcome to Delafield sign. It's
What?
on the top of the post.
Oh, is it crooked?
It's cockeyed. So when they take the signs down, straighten out the gold
Okay.
ball on the top of them. Unless the picture's old.
Number 7, zoning and ordinance revisions. Do we have any?
No,
Nope.
not at this time.
Okay. 8, clerk, planning commission meeting dates and deadlines. Meeting June 26, 2019. Meeting submittal deadline, June 11th, 2019. Public hearing submittal deadline, May 27th, 2019. Refer you to correspondence. And then the big topic of the night, 8B, planners report. Item number 1, building height analysis.
This is not a big topic. Everyone's just going to nod their head, yeah, that's good.
You know it, know it well.
I provided to the Plan Commission the outcome of a conversation we had between the mayor and Mr. Eicher and Mr. Hammes and myself about exactly how we use our ordinance, what we've done in the past, and how we should objectively understand the application of the ordinance as we move forward so that we're all on the same page. As part of that, I drew a couple of little sections to identify how we have in the past identified building height. I guess maybe to give you a good idea of a current example is at Delafield Square here. In regards to the building height, it's identified that we measure the height in the average finished grade. In the instance here with Delafield Square,